let the good times roll.
Volition has shut down. Yes, the developers behind the Saints Row franchise, the Red Faction games, and the Punisher video game have permanently shut down. Yesterday on LinkedIn, Volition uploaded a photo with the words, "An update from Volition." And in the photo it says the following: "The Volition team has proudly created world-class entertainment for fans around the globe for 30 years. We've been driven by a passion for our community and always worked to deliver joy, surprise, and delight." This past June, Embracer Group announced a restructuring program to strengthen Embracer and maintain its position as a leader in the video game industry. As part of that program, they evaluated strategic and operational goals and made the difficult decision to close Volition effective immediately. To help our team, we are working to provide job assistance and help smooth the transition for our Volition family members. We thank our customers and fans around the world for all the love and support over the years. You will always be in our hearts. From Volition Games. Today on Twitter, Volition posted a picture with the caption, "A letter to our community." In the picture it says the following: 30 years of making games. There are only a handful of studios in the industry that have been around for 30 years, and we took a lot of pride over Volition being one of them. Volition has been around long enough that some folks forget what we made, but they certainly know our games. Refrains such as, "Volition made Descent," or "Volition made Free Space," or "Volition made that Summoner RPG with that hilarious video," are not uncommon. Sometimes it's easier to remember the games more than the studio that built them, especially for those that have been around as long as we have. But all good things come to an end, and so it is with Volition. After 30 years, Volition has closed, and we wanted to say a few final words. To start, we know there wouldn't be a studio without the people in it. While it may sound cliched, as those who have worked at Volition can attest, it truly is a huge family. Volition started with a team that had a vision for how to make the kinds of games others couldn't, and infused that confidence throughout the entire company. We assembled an incredibly talented group of artists, storytellers, and creators who together built a culture that attracted top-quality people who truly cared for each other. Time progressed, people naturally came and went, and very often returned again. But the people were always what made Volition truly special. Do all developers feel the same? We know they do, but in this case there truly was a unique culture of people that cared about each other like family, combined with the will to create some of the most unique games ever created. Thank you so much to every Volitionite who has ever worked here. You are all what made this the magical place it was to work at, and we can never say enough about how much you have meant to us over these 30 years. Beyond our development family, we also wouldn't have a studio without our extended family, our community. For 30 years now you have played our games. Sometimes you've loved them, sometimes you've been disappointed with them, but you've always been there. We can speak for everyone who has worked at Volition when we say all the hard work and sacrifices we've put into these games have been for you. Over these many years we have enjoyed working on an extremely diverse series of games, and so many of you have come along for that ride. We can't thank you enough for sticking with us throughout all this time. We've loved your enthusiasm every step of the way, even those times when you wish we had, or hadn't, gone a certain way with a Saints Row or Red Faction or Descent. You are why we kept making these games, and those of us that have been part of the Volition family will be eternally grateful. Farewell. There is currently a false rumor going around where people are saying Volition shut down because Saints Row 2022 was a failure, but that's simply not true. This is misinformation. The real reason Volition shut down is because Embracer Group, the parent company of Deep Silver and Volition, lost a $2 billion deal that was necessary for Embracer to continue supporting the video game department of their company. Due to the deal falling through, Embracer had to reconfigure their objectives, and that led to a total restructure of their entire company, which included closing down a lot of companies they owned. One of these companies happened to be Volition, which was not a good moneymaker. Saints Row 1 sold 2 million units. Saints Row 2 sold 3.4 million units. Saints Row the Third sold 5.5 million units. And Saints Row 4 sold 1 million units at launch. The Saints Row series grossed over $90.1 million on Steam. Saints Row 2 grossed $7.5 million. Saints Row the Third Remastered grossed $1.5 million. Saints Row 4 grossed $68.5 million. Saints Row: Get Out of Hell grossed $8.7 million. Agents of Mayhem grossed $3.9 million. These figures are all from Steam alone. As you can see, the best-selling Saints Row game of all time is Saints Row the Third. That's the reason why Saints Row 4 and Saints Row 2022 are more similar to Saints Row the Third than Saints Row 1 and 2. Saints Row 4 and Agents of Mayhem underperformed for Volition, and it seems Saints Row 2022 was the last straw for the Embracer Group. Keep in mind that Embracer Group is a publicly traded company on the stock market. At the end of the day, the Embracer Group doesn't care about what Saints Row fans want. The only thing they care about is the price of their stock. In an earnings report, it was revealed that the development cost of the Saints Row reboot may have exceeded $100 million. ABG Sundal Collier Holding, which is a Nordic investment bank, said last September that Saints Row 2022 is likely to do okay financially, and it is currently grossing well on Xbox and PlayStation. The investment bank said 2 million copies of Saints Row 2022 need to be sold in order for Embracer to break even. So by all accounts, Saints Row 2022 wasn't a failure. It just underperformed like Saints Row 4 and Agents of Mayhem. Having 3 games underperform consecutively is only one of the reasons why Embracer pulled the plug from Volition. Again, to reiterate, the main reason why Volition is dead is because the $2 billion deal between the Embracer Group and a mystery funding partner went south. According to Stephen Totilo from Axios, the previously unknown partner in a $2 billion video game mega deal that mysteriously and dramatically collapsed last spring was the Saudi government-funded Savvy Games Group. The fallout of the failed deal sent shares of the Embracer Group, Savvy's would-be partner, and one of the most voracious acquirers of video game studios in the last several years, plummeting, and forced it into cost-cutting mode. Axios learned of Savvy's involvement from 4 sources familiar with the deal who were not authorized to speak about it publicly, and after reviewing documentation related to the planned partnership. The $2 billion deal would have involved Savvy investing in the development and publishing of games from Embracer, helping establish the Saudi company as a major gaming label. Embracer had been promising investors news of a lucrative, transformative partnership with several industry partners since November 2022. But in a May 24, 2023 note, Embracer management announced the collapse of one of those massive partnerships while carefully avoiding naming the partner. In the May note, Embracer said that the parties had reached a verbal commitment in October 2022 that would have resulted in more than $2 billion in contracted development revenue over a period of 6 years. All documentation was finalized and ready to go as of yesterday, the company said. We asked for the execution of the agreement before our Q4 announcement. However, late last night we received a negative outcome from the counterparty. While Axios sources were clear about who the deal was with, they were less certain about why Savvy walked away. Savvy emerged in January 2022 with the news that Saudi Arabia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, or Public Investment Fund, PIF, was setting it up as an attempt to invest in gaming and diversify the kingdom's economy. It immediately announced the $1.5 billion purchase of 2 esports firms. Over the last 2 years, the PIF has become one of the largest shareholders in several major gaming companies, including Nintendo, Take-Two Interactive, and Electronic Arts. Savvy executives have told Axios and others that their operation, which has a board chaired by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is a genuine effort to get into gaming and address the professional and leisure interests of the kingdom's youthful population. So what will happen to the Saints Row 2 patch for PC? As much as I hate to say it, the PC patch that Volition promised that would fix Saints Row 2 for PC and add downloadable content is dead. It died when Volition was shut down. It's a shame because Mike Watson, also known as Idle Ninja, worked on the patch during his last days on Earth before he died from stage 4 cancer. Chip Cheesem, a former Volition developer, even stated that he's extremely pissed that all of Idle Ninja's hard work for the Saints Row 2 PC patch might never see the light of day. But since Embracer Group is currently tight on money, I highly doubt they will spend further resources on a patch that is free for players. They have been cutting entire departments and companies ever since the deal with the Saudi-funded Savvy Games company fell through. As for the future of the Saints Row brand, it is unclear whether we will see future Saints Row games. The Saints Row IP belongs to Embracer Group, so they are the ones that decide which game developer they own can work on the Saints Row brand. But since Embracer Group decided to shut down Volition on the 31st of August to save money on paying insurance for 200 of its employees, I highly doubt they will allow its many game developer companies to revive the Saints Row IP, given that Saints Row 4, Agents of Mayhem, and Saints Row 2022 all underperformed. It is very unlikely the Saints Row IP will be resurrected. Saints Row 1 turns 20 years old in 2026, that's 3 years from now. It would be nice if Embracer Group gave the green light for a remake of the original Saints Row game from the ground up, similar to how Take-Two gave the green light to 2K Games for Hangar 13 to remake Mafia 1 for its 20-year anniversary. However, with Volition permanently closed, it is very unlikely we will ever see a Saints Row 1 remake, let alone a remaster. According to Deep Silver, the video game publishing company, the Saints Row IP and Red Faction IP will live on at PLAION, formerly known as Koch Media. So this means there is hope for the Saints Row and Red Faction fans. The only downside is that Embracer Group is the parent company of PLAION. What are your thoughts on this whole ordeal? Will you miss the Saints Row franchise? What was your favorite game from Volition? For me personally, I will miss the Saints Row franchise. I wasn't a fan of the direction the brand went after Saints Row 2, but I still enjoyed playing Saints Row the Third, Saints Row 4, Gat Out of Hell, and even the reboot. As for my favorite Saints Row game, it would have to be Saints Row 2. It's a shame that the Saints Row franchise is now dead. As always, thank you for watching, and make sure to subscribe for future Saints Row content.